Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric and a continuing series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project. And today we have a video that was unexpected for me to make, and that is because Neo Geo CD support in its infancy is on MiSTer now. A user on Twitter, PaulBNIO, I hope I guessed your name right because there's some letters that could be numbers, is developing this, and there is a current alpha build. Do not expect a full Neo Geo CD experience from the current core, and do not expect the maker to finish this next week. Give him time, I'm sure it will happen. But having Neo Geo CD on MiSTer, even if its current state, is absolutely spectacular because we have had the Neo Geo core for some years now, and this is my favorite arcade platform of all time. I have Neo Geo CD hardware with a ton of games, but having it on MiSTer is absolutely amazing. Now, fair word of warning, this core has no audio whatsoever, so when it's playing well, it seems to be spectacular, but if you're looking for that Neo Geo CD audio support, it is not yet baked into the core because of course, music works differently on Neo Geo CD versus MVS or AES ROM, so that is to be expected. But I will say playing King of Fighters here, outside of the fact that I had to use a controller because my arcade stick is taken apart for testing right now, this worked absolutely amazingly. It felt like the game I know and love. Now, I'm not going to show you how to get this core on your MiSTer right now because you do need to be on unstable main, and I don't love telling you guys how to do that because someone always makes a mistake. But when you do get into the core, you're going to need to define your buttons, and you're going to need to change the system over to a CD system. You'll see system type right there. Once you do those two things, you can go in and load up whatever queue you want. Now, this does support CHD files, but I've been using BinQ because I find the most luck with them. If you've never played Neo Geo CD before, you might not know that when the BIOS loads up onto the actual hardware, it brings you to a menu where you have to press start to actually start the game. It's very similar to Sega CD, and speaking of Sega CD, this does share some code, so people are testing the Sega CD core to make sure that there's no detrimental issues for having this into MiSTer main, just making sure nothing regresses. And don't forget Neo Geo CD, it definitely has some loading times. Now this is using the Neo Geo CD BIOS, not the CDZ, which is not fully supported yet. So those faster load times are not working. Hopefully in the future something like that does happen. But getting into Bust a Move here, it's just incredible to see this playing on MiSTer. Now of course we've had the MVS ROM for the longest time, and that's been incredible, but the Neo Geo CD version is just one of my favorite games on the platform, and technically as far as home releases are concerned, it is a Neo Geo CD exclusive, and just seeing it running, this is playing perfectly. Of course there's no audio, we have no sound to listen to, but the gameplay in and of itself is responsive, and I can play and bank my shots exactly how I would expect on real hardware. Now you might notice that it did say Bust a Move in the beginning. Neo Geo CD functions in the exact same manner as the Neo Geo AES or MVS does, which is to say, if you change the region of the game or the hardware, then you're going to get different results. If we switch over to a Japanese region, Bust a Move is going to turn into Puzzle Bobble. Now, depending on whether or not you want English language support or if you want less censorship and things like King of Fighters, you can toggle back and forth between those different regions at your whim. It works exactly the same in concept as the MVS and the AES does, so if you're familiar with that, these games have these same differences. Now, onto something like Ironclad here. You will see in some games there are definitely graphical issues with as far as the layering is concerned. If you see something like this, just go ahead and open up the home menu and you're going to see an option for fix layer. If we turn that off, now suddenly we're going to have that artwork. Sprite layer turning off, don't recommend that, you need the sprites. We do lose some of the heads up display, but now we have a playable game. This is just how it works when cores are in development. There's always situations where there's not a perfection on screen, but I'm sure it will get there. The fact that the developer of this core has gotten this far so far is a really promising thing. I am hyper impressed by this, and I think you guys should be too, because from the gameplay perspective, when it is working, it feels like playing on real hardware outside of that audio. And I've been playing a lot of Neo Geo CD games lately just for fun and also for captures, and I will say that I'm not really detecting any differences in the gameplay compared to original hardware. Now, the eagle-eyed among you might notice something I don't, and leave me a comment down below if you see something that isn't correct, because I'm always curious when I have 1,000 eyes on something. Sometimes you guys notice something I don't. But speaking of Neo Geo CD exclusives, of course I wanted to try Crosswords too, because I just recently last year did a video on this late in the year, and I have been playing it a lot. This just looks and feels like playing Crosswords 2 on a real Neo Geo CD system, except for the fact that we have no audio, but the input input latency is perfect. The graphics look incredible. If you showed this to me and just told me there was no audio in the video, I don't know that I could pick apart which one was which. But of course, Crossroads as well works on this core. And some people like the second game better, some people like the first game better. It's totally subjective as to what you're into. But again, it is just an incredible experience, and it feels so fun to play this on MiSTer. Because of course, while the Neo Geo CD and the Neo Geo have a big overlap of games, it is fun hardware, and since Neo Geo and Neo Geo CD have the same base hardware outside of the delivery medium, it was only a matter of time until someone got this over to MiSTer, and it's so incredible to see. But let's take a look at Fatal Fury Special, a classic game and one of the older SNK entries compared to some of the King of Fighters we'll talk about in a little bit. And again, it just looks and feels like I would expect it to look and feel on my original hardware. And this is a game that I have an original copy for and play a ton when friends are over. And that's what is the great part about having this, is that it's already come to us and it feels relatively far along. Now, some games I just couldn't get to work. Something like Pulstar, I can get into the menu and select the difficulty, but when it actually gets into the game, there is no audio and there are no graphics. Now, it could be playing in the background and it just doesn't have anything to see, but because we don't have audio yet, it really is hard to say. But I'm sure in future updates to this code, a lot of more things will start working. Just remember, don't bother the people that make these things. Give them the time it takes to produce the work they're doing and be thankful for that. I don't think anyone in my audience would ever tell somebody to hurry up, but I hear that a lot in MiSTer. I hear that a lot in other projects as well, where people are just bothered by fans asking for things quicker. Be patient and just be happy with what we get, because what we have here is awesome. Something like King of Fighters 95, it just looks spectacular. This game looks amazing on Neo Geo hardware, and it looks as good as it should here on this prototype Neo Geo CD core. Although I kept getting the hardest characters to fight against. I hate fighting against Billy, and I hate fighting against Choi, and that's what I got for the capture. So sometimes this game does just seem to completely taunt me. When I talked about games that do work and games that don't work, if you see this, this is a really good indication that there is a problem. Let's try to load up something like King of Fighters 99. Now, this isn't a problem with the core, this is a problem with the files. If you get this warning message on your screen as it tries to load up, right now it's in Japanese and you'll see it's going to pivot over to a CD message. That means it's not detecting a Neo Geo CD game in the drive. Try different files. Something like Big Tournament Golf here, if you try to get into the game, you're going to see that it will start to load up, but just like Pulsar that I mentioned, it's just going to black screen. That means it's currently not working. But something that is working incredibly well is Baseball Stars. Now, this is just a ton of fun as a game to play, and I can't recommend it enough. I have it on Neo Geo AES, and I love it. And what I am playing here, again, is just working so well, and it's incredible to get a new core, even if it's a work in progress, and be able to sit down and actually enjoy some games. Things like the PlayStation 1 core, when it was first being developed, you could barely get it to do anything, and that's not a dig on Robert. He's an incredible developer. He just gave us something super early to look at. This is a situation where it's just a little later along. But something like Last Resort here, if you do have any of those graphical glitches, just remember to do that fix layer change. Now we have graphics in the game. We're missing the heads-up display, but honestly, not super crucial. And this is a ton of fun in a game that I don't hear as many people mention as I think should. So 100% give it a shot. I love the intro scene with this city and those searchlights in the background. It is just such an attractive looking game. It's something that I think everyone should experience at least once. Now, games that I don't think you really need to experience, but it's still fun to talk about from the technical perspective, is Ragnagard, and that's going to be another one where you need to deal with that fix layer to get the graphics up on screen. But if you do want to start playing the Neo Geo CD core, you're going to want to head over to the official MiSTer Discord. There's going to be builds under the MiSTer Neo Geo channel, and you're also going to have to go to test builds and get an unstable MiSTer build. If you want to do those things, you can 100% start testing, and the good thing is, because the Neo Geo CD library isn't huge, it shouldn't take too long at all to find out what is working and what isn't working. I'm not the only one playing these things right now. We've been chatting about what does and doesn't work. But the fact that I can play Puzzle Bobble, the Neo Geo CD version, on MiSTer today is just nothing short of magic. Now, of course, this course still has a ways to go, and I'm sure the work's going to get done, but honestly, what is here right now is incredible. And if for some strange reason you have never played a Puzzle Bobble game, you owe it to me to to go ahead and play one. Hit like and subscribe and all that jazz as well, but if you really want to do one thing, play Puzzle Bobble this week for me. You will enjoy it. But it is incredible to have this working on MiSTer, even if it isn't finished. And this is what I love so much about the MiSTer project. You just get a random message on a Tuesday morning and somebody tells you that Neo Geo CD is now working on MiSTer, and you get to sit down on Wednesday and make a video about it. But I will have another MiSTer video tomorrow because my Thursday video got pushed to Friday because I was so excited to talk about this. Short of that, go play some Neo Geo CD on your MiSTer today, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.